wanted to share an experience that I had last night. It's a lot different than the experience that I and a dear friend of mine encountered out in a desert a number of years ago. Last night isn't common, but it happens enough that I think it's important to talk about. So, one, if and when it does happen to you, and if you, as the Order does, actively engage reptilian and Illuminati forces, both in the astral realms and here in the physical, eventually something is going to take notice of you. And fear is a dense and heavy vibration. Spirits, to continue on and to especially manifest themselves, need the densest vibrations that they can get, and fear is a pretty popular one. It's relatively easy to cultivate, and the world right now is saturated with it. There is also something to be said about nighttime. The world is quiet. Magnetically and energetically, wherever the sun doesn't touch definitely gets denser. And it's easier for entities to move about and to take on partial manifestations at night than it is in the rays of our sun. Also, since the mind is quieter and you're approaching the time of sleep, it's easier to recognize them too. Also, because most people are in a state of winding down into trance, that is most of the time when astral projections occur. And before you astrally project, or before you move into another realm of consciousness, a door opens for you to move through. Now, whether or not you're aware that you move through it is something totally different, but things can move through that and into the physical world. So, knowing that, and me being a veteran of a number of rituals, a couple hundreds, I would say. I don't know if I'm in the thousands yet, but practicing for at least 15 years. I've been with this order for over 10. I was working ritual last night with friends of mine who are in the group that the order is part of, but who are not in the order themselves. And we left a door open. Always close doors. Any astral projection, any ritual, when you're done, close doors. When you wake up from your astral projection, mentally, spiritually intend that door is closed, because if it's open long enough, something will follow through. And I think this is probably what happened. I sleep in an area that I keep extremely dark. No light, no sound. I like it to be like a deprivation, a sensory deprivation chamber as much as possible. And I was pretty exhausted. It had been a long day. It had been a long ritual. And I'm laying down, and very few nights go by that I don't energize my sphere of influence, and that I don't ask the Prime Creator to protect me while I sleep, and that I don't call to my patrons to see if there's battles on the astral to be fought. And this is just one of those nights I didn't do that. So here's a clue for you. when you start doing this kind of work, before you sleep, always, 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 always ask the Divine Creator to energize, heal, and seal your aura, and ask for your patrons to be with you. Always do this. You know, and there are times you won't, but the more you do it, the healthier and protected you will be. So, going back, my area where I sleep is very dark, like I was saying. And from closing my eyes and stretching out and then kind of turning over onto my right side and opening my eyes again, there was I'm trying to make it look like something when really honestly it was just sort of like an anamorphous blob that was darker than the dark room. That it wasn't huge, probably the size of a dog, that moved up my wall in sort of a zigzag fashion and crawled, moved, slid across my ceiling. Now instantly the room itself got a very stale and very heavy feel. And this is something that I have encountered before. Had I engaged in a fearful response, whatever it was would have gotten a lot stronger. But because I am who I am, and because I roll with the order that I roll with, and because of the metaphysics that I understand, I know that, and here's a big secret, that the physical world holds precedence over the astral world, meaning that domination of spiritual energies comes from being in a physical body. You may not have heard that, but it is true. Therefore, with no fear, I looked at it, and here's truly how you perform an exorcism, people. I looked at it, held up my hand, and gave it the finger, and told it to get the fuck out of my space, or Thor, who is my personal patron, would tear it into astral shreds and wipe his ass with it. Now, it wasn't but a couple seconds later that the entity, whatever it was, figured I'm not fucking around. It didn't want to fuck with Thor, because honestly, nothing does. And it left. And my room suddenly had a nice, light, cool feeling the way I enjoy it. That is the power of being in a physical body. And that is a power of your invocation. And that is why working with heroes and patrons is so very important. Because they back up your words. They back up your intentions. They are the mighty bullet in your gun. It is so important to ally yourself with like-minded spiritual entities. I know that there's a lot of stuff that we have to get to. I still have Hercules. I'm going to release information. Thor's coming up very soon. I'm going to do a video with the March Rider. I'm going to do a video with some of the texts that we read. There's some that will just blow your mind, and some that will inspire you to great acts of courage and strength. And that will really empower you when facing things that are of a darker nature. Because you need to come to a point where you're so appalled that these things would exist and harm and make the lives of your fellow men miserable, that it is out of sheer duty and love for fellow man that you would engage them with such violence. So take that with you tonight when you sleep. Know that you are held by the Prime Creator, and there's not a darkness on the world that you can't tell to get the fuck out of your space.